9 days after I bought my ranch, an HOA president I had never even met pulled up and demanded $8,400, threatening legal action over land she didn't even own. For a moment, I'll admit it, I felt a flicker of panic. Not because I believed she was right, but because the situation itself felt like the beginning of a problem I didn't want. I had done everything properly before buying the place. I checked the property record myself, and even paid extra for a real estate attorney to go over everything. I made it very clear from the start that I wanted land completely outside HOA control. Still, I had just poured most of my savings into that ranch, and the last thing I needed was unexpected stress creeping in right after I moved. That ranch wasn't supposed to bring trouble. It was supposed to be my escape. After spending 20 years doing construction work around Dallas, I was exhausted in a way that's hard to explain unless you've lived it. Constant noise, traffic before sunrise, neighbors shouting through thin apartment walls about things that didn't matter. It wears you down over time. I got tired of feeling irritated before my day had even properly started. The ranch itself wasn't some luxury dream either. Parts of the fencing leaned awkwardly, like they'd give up if pushed too hard. Half the barn looked like it might collapse if a strong wind came through. The gravel driveway turned into thick mud every time it rained. But despite all that, it had something I hadn't felt in years: quiet. On my first night there, I sat by the pond, listening to frogs and the wind moving through the trees instead of sirens and traffic. I remember thinking to myself, all right, maybe this is what peace actually sounds like. For a brief moment, everything felt right. Then, days later, Karen showed up and shattered that feeling. I was out near the road fixing some fence wire when a white SUV came speeding up my driveway, throwing dust into the air. The vehicle stopped abruptly, and a woman stepped out wearing oversized sunglasses and a bright red blazer. Even though it had to be close to 90 degrees outside, I remember thinking that nobody dressed like that unless they were trying to be noticed. She walked straight toward me, holding a clipboard tightly against her chest. "Good morning," she said in a polished tone. "I'm Karen Whitmore, president of the Willow Creek Estates HOA." The way she said HOA immediately rubbed me the wrong way, like I was supposed to recognize her authority without question. I gave a short nod and kept working, not really interested in the introduction. That's when she continued, "I'm here regarding your overdue association dues." That made me stop completely. I looked at her, thinking maybe I had misheard. "My what?" I asked. "Your HOA dues," she repeated, as if it were obvious. "Including penalties, your current balance is $8,400. At first, I laughed. It sounded ridiculous. But when I saw she wasn't joking, that uneasy feeling settled in my stomach. Not full panic. More like that sinking thought of, please, don't let this turn into something big. I set my tools down and asked carefully, "Are you saying my ranch is part of your HOA?" "You border our subdivision," she replied. "The previous owner cooperated with HOA standards for years." That word stood out immediately. Cooperated. Not joined, not legally bound, just cooperated. After years of dealing with contracts and inspectors, I knew people chose their words carefully when the paperwork didn't back them up. So I asked the simplest question I could think of. "Can you show me documentation that says my property belongs to your HOA?" She hesitated for just a moment before forcing a smile back onto her face. "I don't carry legal documents personally." I was ready to argue, but I stopped myself. I could already feel irritation clouding my thinking. Instead, I asked, "Then why are you demanding money from me?" That question clearly caught her off guard. Her expression shifted. Not angry yet, but offended, like she wasn't used to being questioned. Then she started scanning my ranch with a look of visible disapproval. "That barn color violates community appearance standards," she said. I actually turned to look at the barn behind me. It was just faded brown wood, normal barn color. Before I could even respond, my horse Ranger wandered up behind her and let out a loud snort that nearly made her jump out her skin. I won't lie, I laughed. I had to turn away for a second just to keep it together. Karen spun around, furious, while Ranger calmly stood there chewing grass like he owned the place. "This attitude won't help you," she snapped. That's when I understood exactly what kind of person she was. I've seen it before. People who change the moment they think they have authority over someone else. Karen felt exactly like that type. A few days later, things escalated. I came back from town and saw bright orange violation notices zip-tied across my ranch gate, where anyone passing by could see them. Property noncompliance, pending fines, unapproved structures. One notice even complained that my horses were visually disruptive from community roads, which honestly sounded like a joke. But what bothered me most wasn't the wording. It was how public it felt, like my property was being marked for everyone to judge. That evening, I sat on my porch staring at the gate, watching one of the papers peel slightly in the heat. I remember thinking, I really believed I left this kind of nonsense behind. But I also knew something else. I had worked too hard for that ranch to let someone bully me out of enjoying it. The next morning, I called my attorney. A few hours later, he sat across from me flipping through county records. Then suddenly he started laughing, not a quiet chuckle, but full-on laughing. "These people have nothing," he said. "Your ranch has zero legal connection to that HOA." I sat there quietly, letting that sink in. From the very beginning, this whole situation had been built on intimidation. No authority, no ownership, nothing, just pressure. And strangely, that realization didn't make me feel relieved. It made me angry, because if Karen was trying this on me, there was a good chance she'd done it to others too. So I sent the HOA a certified letter requesting proof that my property legally belonged to their association. That's when Karen crossed the line. 4 days later, I walked outside with my morning coffee and froze halfway down the porch steps. Bright pink survey flags had been stuck all along the edge of my pasture. One was shoved right next to Ranger's water trough for no reason, and 2 of my fence posts had been spray-painted with utility markings. I stood there, trying to process what I was seeing. Then I noticed 2 contractors near the roadside fence taking measurements, and farther back, parked near the road, was Karen's SUV, just sitting there, watching. I started walking toward them, only realizing halfway there that I was gripping my coffee cup so tightly the lid had cracked. One of the contractors looked nervous the moment I approached. "Who told you to come out here?" I asked. He didn't even argue, just pointed silently toward Karen's SUV. That irritated me more than anything else. I walked straight to her window. "You put survey markers on my property?" Karen slowly lowered her sunglasses. "We're preparing compliance enforcement measures." I had to steady myself before responding, because at that point, I was genuinely furious. "You need to remove every single thing your people touched," I said, "before I call the sheriff." For the first time since I met her, she looked uncertain, not afraid, just realizing I wasn't a foe like she expected. One contractor immediately began pulling the flags out of the ground, while the other started dealing with the paint. Karen tried one last attempt. "You're making a serious mistake fighting the HOA." I paused for a second, choosing my words carefully. Then I said, "No, my mistake was thinking people out here respected property lines." No one said another word after that. Karen sped off my driveway, tires kicking gravel against the fence as she left. About a week later, one of the HOA residents called me after their monthly meeting. Apparently, someone had stood up holding county records while Karen tried to interrupt him. Residents started talking over each other once they realized she had been threatening people without any legal authority. According to my neighbor, Karen eventually walked out while people were still shouting questions at her from across the room. She resigned 2 weeks later. After that, the ranch got quiet again, exactly the way I wanted from the beginning. So be honest. If someone threatened your property with fake legal notices, would you fight back, or would you pay just to protect your peace? And if you enjoyed this story, stick around, because HOA stories somehow only get crazier from here.